Today, the US braces for a second Donald Trump presidency, Germany's governing coalition collapses, and Ireland prepares for an imminent snap election. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Thursday, the 7th of November, 2024. After the seismic US election earlier this week, in our main story today, we discuss what a second Donald Trump presidency might look like. The former Republican Party president and now president-elect won a decisive victory over Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, who conceded defeat in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday afternoon. Addressing a crowd at her alma mater, Howard University, Harris said that while she recognizes that many Americans believe the country is entering a dark time, she would work with Trump to ensure a peaceful transfer of power. She also added that, while she accepts the election results, she would not concede the fight that fueled this campaign, including on issues like women's rights, the rule of law, and democracy. Trump, meanwhile, celebrated his victory at Mar-a-Lago on Wednesday, saying, "America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate." He has denied that he wants autocratic power, though, although with an incoming Senate majority and possible majority in the House of Representatives, Trump is expected to spend his first weeks overhauling the executive branch, including restarting efforts from his first term to fire civil servants and relocate some federal agencies, to reshape US institutions in his favor. He has also pledged to immediately rescind the Biden administration's environmental regulations, pardon some January the 6th rioters, and sack the prosecutor, Jack Smith, who led the criminal investigations against him. Other actions Trump has promised include mass deportations of undocumented migrants, tax cuts and at least 10% tariffs on most foreign goods, stepping back from foreign conflicts, and ending the Russia-Ukraine war. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Armin Hazitska, then consider joining the TLDR Daily Membership Program for just $1.99. Over to Europe now, where Germany's coalition government has dramatically collapsed, paving the way for an early election by March next year. On Wednesday night, Chancellor Olaf Scholz fired his finance minister Christian Lindner of the free market, fiscally conservative Free Democratic Party, or FDP, who had been in coalition with Scholz's Social Democrats, SPD, and the Green Party. With the FDP out, the SPD and the Greens will continue in coalition until January, when Scholz will table a no-confidence vote that will likely trigger an election by the end of March. So why has the coalition collapsed? Well, Scholz's firing of Lindner comes after a prolonged period of largely budget-based infighting, against the backdrop of an ailing German economy, which is facing its second year of no growth, and a budget with holes that need filling. Scholz said that Lindner had broken his trust, engaged in petty party political tactics, and had refused to ease spending rules. Lindner had recently authored a policy paper that called for cuts to social spending, a moratorium on regulation, and weakening of climate targets, proposals that were at odds with the SPD and the Greens. The three-party coalition has been in office since 2021, but its popularity has fallen to a deep low. An early election is expected to hasten the return to power of the conservative Christian Democratic Union, which has been comfortably ahead in the polls for years, while the SPD and the Greens are in third and fourth place behind the far-right Alternative for Deutschland. The FDP, meanwhile, faces a battle for survival, as it is polling below the 5% threshold needed for parliamentary representation. Over to Ireland now, where Taoiseach Simon Harris has called for a snap election to be held on Friday the 29th of November, aiming to extend his Fine Gael party's impressive 14-year tenure in power, rather than waiting for the legal deadline in March. Harris, who took over as party leader and Taoiseach in April, made this decision as Fine Gael currently leads the polls with a 25% support amidst a crowded field of competitors. He leads a coalition government of three parties, including his own, Fianna Fáil, and the Green Party. In contrast, the opposition Irish Republican Sinn Féin party has seen a significant decline in its anti-establishment appeal, as its popularity nosedives amid rising anti-immigrant sentiment and the fallout from various scandals and resignations. This presents an opportunity for Harris to capitalise on Sinn Féin's dip in support. The party is now polling at 18%, a stark drop from over 30% just last September. Additionally, Harris is seizing the moment to leverage the positive sentiment generated by an October budget that has injected €2.2 billion in extra cash into the hands of voters right before Christmas. Key highlights of the budget include an increase of €12 per week in pensions, an extension of the fuel allowance, a €700 payment for each child, and a rise in the income threshold for the higher tax rate from €42,000 to €44,000. With parties given 3 weeks of campaigning, key battleground issues the election will be fought over are health, housing, the cost of living, and immigration. And if polls are right, Sinn Féin has a lot of ground to make up on its rivals. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing a new political scandal after several people were arrested in the past week, including Netanyahu's spokesperson, as part of an investigation into a leak of classified documents from his office. The documents are alleged to be Hamas military plans found by Israeli military intelligence in Gaza, which were then reportedly manipulated by suspects within or close to Netanyahu's office, and leaked to the UK's Jewish Chronicle and the German tabloid Bild. Announcing the arrests last Friday, an Israeli court said this breach of national security had also harmed the achievement of Israel's war aims. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum, which represents relatives of those being held by Hamas, expressed outrage and deep concern at the revelation that officials had, in their words, undermined public support for the hostage deal. On Tuesday this week, protesters also blocked a busy motorway in Tel Aviv, demanding an end to the war in Gaza and a return of the 101 hostages still in captivity. Moving to Australia now, where Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's government has proposed new laws aimed at reducing the harm that social media has on children. The way they're planning to do this is by introducing world-leading legislation that will ban children under the age of 16 from using social media. Speaking about the plan, Albanese explained that this one is for the mums and dads. They, like me, are worried sick about the safety of our kids online. I want Australian families to know that the government has your back. While some grassroots campaigners have praised the move, others have criticised it. One of Australia's largest child rights advocacy groups described the plan as too blunt an instrument. Additionally, some experts have argued that the bill will only delay young people's exposure to apps like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, instead of showing them how to use them in a healthy way. Now, it's important to note here that there will be no exemptions on the age limit for children who have consent from their parents. In proposing the new legislation, Albanese was also keen to stress that there would be no penalties for users, instead putting the onus on social media platforms themselves to prevent underage users from signing up. This e-safety commissioner will be tasked with ensuring that social media companies abide by the new law, and the effectiveness of the law will be reviewed 12 months after being implemented. In our final uplifting story today, we discuss a new study that has raised the hopes of scientists aiming to treat some of the most aggressive cancers. Essentially, the study found that many of the hard-to-treat cancers contained a loop of malignant genetic material that were crucial for the tumours to survive. Following tests of 39 different tumour types among 15,000 UK patients, it was found that around 1 in 6 cancers had this loop of genetic material, known as extrachromosomal DNA, or ecDNA. The hope is that, if scientists find a way of targeting the ecDNA, they will be able to treat even the most aggressive cancers more effectively. Earlier in today's episode, we discussed the upcoming snap elections in Germany and Ireland, and if that's something you're interested in, then you should check out our magazine Too Long, the 2024 election special.
Too Long is the high-quality physical magazine that we make every 4 months, and this time dives into every major election to take place in 2024, including, obviously, the US election. That means it'll contain our full analysis of the US election, what the winner, so Donald Trump, is likely to do next, and our review of the Biden administration. However, there's so much more than just the US election to talk about. With nearly half of the world's population able to vote in 2024, we dive into elections from all over the world, outlining how people voted, the impacts, and the real stories. That makes Too Long the ideal way to commemorate this iconic year of elections. Whether you're an American wanting a bit of electoral history, a European TLDR fan looking to dive deeper into the elections across the continent we've been discussing all year, or you're just curious about the elections you might have missed, now's the time to buy. If you really want to support our free journalism, you can also buy the premium edition that not only includes the magazine, but also gets you access to our behind-the-scenes podcast and gets your name printed in the thank you section. You can also subscribe to make sure you never miss an issue, which not only helps us a lot, but also gets you 25% off every copy going forward. So commemorate this massive election, support our journalism, and experience our very best reporting with Too Long. Plus, if you use code 2DAILY, you'll not only get £2 off any purchase, we'll also know that you came from the Daily Briefing, which supports the show.